Hey guys, if you watched my first post, which was the first book club post, I stated that I would create another video related to how to pay for, how to keep continuing education, CEUs, PDUs, maintaining your certifications, how to keep that all affordable. I read an article not too long ago where someone stated that the #1 reason that people don't maintain their certifications that they work very hard for was because of the cost. So I'm hoping with this video I can give you guys some ideas. Okay, so first let's be clear on what we're talking about. We're talking about time and the money that you spend maintaining a certification, because most certifications, I'm in the IT industry, so my certifications would be things like CISP, PMP, ITIL, Security Plus, Network Plus, A Plus, things like that. But this can apply to pretty much any industry that requires you to get a certification and then maintain it via education throughout the year. And then also, in addition to those requirements that you have, just as a professional, I think if you are going to stay relevant in your profession, then you have to continue your education past the time that you get your certification and even past the time that you get your degree. You have to stay up to date because those things become outdated. The theories, the processes that you learned become outdated. And typically how you would maintain those certifications throughout the year or continue your education is through continuing education. And for certifications, some of them require you to get a certain amount of CEUs or PDUs in between the time that you obtain the certification initially and every time you have to renew. Really quickly, let's talk about the difference between a CEU and a PDU. A CEU is about 10 hours of training time, direct participatory training time, and a PDU is 1 contact hour. And whether or not you're looking for CEUs or PDUs depends on the certifying body and what their requirements are. So for example, the Project Management Institute, which is the certifying body for the PMP certification, which most people have heard of, they require a certain number of PDUs before you renew any number of their certifications, and it depends on the certification. PMP, PMI, ACP, PMI, RMP, so they have different certifications and they require a certain number of PDUs to be able to renew those. On the other hand, CompTIA, which is the certifying body for your Network Plus, Security Plus, of course I'm using IT examples, they require, at least for the Security Plus, 50 CEUs in order to renew, right? So it's going to be different, and you have to know and look up what the requirements are probably before you even get the cert, to try to what it's going to take to maintain it. Now, any PDUs or CEUs that you're going to use to be able to maintain your certifications, you have to know that they have to be related to the certification. The training that you use has to be related to the certification, but that doesn't mean the entire training has to be related. A lot of people go to conferences and take training, and they think because the whole thing didn't apply to whatever the certification is that they can't use it, but you can. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're trying to renew a IT security related certification. You take a class, let's say that class is 10 hours long and it's not really security or IT security related, but they did have an hour or two dedicated to IT security within that training that was related to something completely different. You can claim those 2 hours. The whole class did not have to be related. So whatever the training is, or whatever portion of that training relates, you can claim those hours. All right, so here is the #1 thing that you can do to keep continuing education and to keep certification maintenance affordable. The #1 thing you can do is only do those things that are relevant, right? And only do those things that are reputable. So here's what I mean by that. If you are offered training or you have access to training that's relevant to your job and it's free or it's low cost, go ahead and take it. If it's not relevant at all and will not help you or in the foreseeable future, and it's not a skill that relates at all to your profession, skip it until you can afford to add on those things that aren't really relevant. So keep what you're paying for relevant to your job. Also, when you're going for certifications, before you even get to the point where you have to maintain them, make sure it's a reputable certification. Make sure the certifying body is a reputable certifying body. Make sure that it is something that is actually going to be of value to you to put on a resume. If you're taking training from an organization that no one else has heard from and it's not going to have an impact on your resume, I'm not saying don't take the training. I'm saying if you're cost prohibitive, you don't want to waste your money on training and certifications that don't matter. The way you find out what certifications are relevant and are important to what you need for your career goals, or what training is relevant to where you want to go professionally and will help you out in your career, look at the job boards. Look at the types of certifications that these employers are asking for. Or if you are a consultant of your own and you want to make yourself more marketable, look at what employers are looking at. You can still look at what employers are looking for, what job skills for your profession are being requested from employees. These are going to be the same people that are hiring consultants. So take a look at what's relevant for your profession. All right, so some of the ideas that I'm going to give about how to keep this affordable, I'm going to put it into 3 categories. I'm going to put it into free, so some ideas on how to get what you want for free, some ideas on how to get training and education and maintain your certifications at a low cost, and how to consolidate some of those. So I'll call that 2 for 1, right? How do you kill 2 birds with 1 stone when it comes to training and education? Okay, as I said before, I'm a big fan of books, and you can use books and count that as credit towards your PDUs or CEUs. And of course, it's a part of continuing education. You can get books for free from the library. You have to give them back, but you can get them for free. And that includes audiobooks. You may have to wait because there's usually a waiting list on all the really good books at the library. But if you don't have time to sit down and read and you want to pop in an audiobook to and from your commute to work, that is a great way to keep it free and to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. When it comes to CEUs and PDUs, you can use your work experience. If you are working in the industry for the certification that you are trying to maintain, or if it's in somewhat related to the certification that you're trying to maintain, you can use that, and it doesn't have to be your entire job. So for example, if you're trying to maintain a PMP certification, you don't have to be a project manager, but if part of what you do relates to project management, you've worked on some projects at this job and you've gotten that experience, you can claim that experience, and they have the instructions on how to do that wherever the certifying body collects that information. Next, for free is the training that you get from your employer. And there's 2 types of training. There is the optional training. A lot of employers will provide training like the McDonald's University. I think it's what it's called, the Walmart University. Also, a lot of employers, especially some of these mid-range to bigger companies, have training that they've already purchased and is available via their intranet, or if you go to human resources and ask for access to whatever the training is. And just because it's provided by an employer and not necessarily, like a Global Knowledge or Learning Tree, a big reputable training company, it still counts as training that you can use towards your CEUs and PDUs. And if it is related to your job, that's additional knowledge that you're obtaining for free. Next, you want to consider the required training that you get from your employer. If you're required to take some sort of security training every year, usually some sort of IT or information assurance training, you can use that training to renew your security certification. Next, look at the tools that you use on a regular basis. Do you use Microsoft Office? Do you use Jira? Do you use Confluence? Do you use Camtasia? Most of these software companies want people to use the tools, right? Because eventually you'll buy them, or your companies will buy them. And they offer free training on their websites. And you can use that if you are working in project management and you learn how to manage projects on a specific tool, you can claim that as a PDU. And then also, if you are a member of some sort of organization, of course, if you're a veteran, there's a lot of educational opportunities that are available for free or for reimbursement. Even if you've already used something like your GI Bill, if you're trying to change professions, go to the VA website. There's still things available for people who have gone through and used the GI Bill, or if the GI Bill wasn't available for you because you didn't sign up for it when you were in basic training or whatever, there's still options available for you out there. So go to the VA website. Okay, Next, let's talk about low cost. And the first thing I'm going to talk about for low cost is employer paid training. And the reason I put this under low cost and not free is because a lot of the times you have to be reimbursed, and you'll only be reimbursed under certain conditions. It depends. And then they only pay for certain things, or there's a cost limit that your employer puts on how much they'll reimburse for training. Sometimes they'll actually reimburse for you to renew your certification. Ask if you're not absolutely 100% sure. Ask what's available to you. So I put that under low cost instead of free because it's not always free. There are companies that will reimburse for a formal education at a college. There are companies that will reimburse for formal education via one of these professional training companies. Some may reimburse for training materials, and there are some that will allow you to experiment on certain tools and certain education for tools, maybe things that you use or that you think the company or your business might benefit from. Your client or your company that you work for may be willing to pay for you to explore whatever that new tool is or whatever that new methodology or framework or process is. So next under low cost is, again, books, right? So let's say you don't want to go to the library like me. I want to be able to write in my books and keep things for reference later on, whether or not I actually go back to it. But used books on Amazon, Kindle books, if you can stand to read online, books from eBay. There's a company called Thrift Books, which I absolutely love. You can get books for pennies on the dollar. It's called Thrift Books. And just as a side note, renting textbooks, large books, is still a thing. I know for me, a lot of times what I'm trying to learn or reacquaint myself with isn't really available on the commercial book market or whatever you call it. What I'm looking for is oftentimes found in a textbook. And those things are pricey, whether you're in school or not. So sometimes if it's worth it, maybe 2 or 3 times I've actually just rented a textbook and of course given it back. Also under low cost, there are companies like Udemy and Coursera that have 8 to 40-hour courses that are very inexpensive. I know at least for Udemy, if you wait, at some point during the month, they're going to have a sale. So those classes will go from a couple of $100s to anywhere from $10 to $20 each, right? And so if there's a lot that you want to learn, a lot of different tools, make it a point to check them out during their sale. This is not endorsed at all. I use them all the time because it keeps things affordable for me. The only thing you don't want to do is going back to not wasting your money on things that would not be beneficial to you. Add on to that those things that you don't have time to get to yet. So I always recommend don't buy anything more than 1 or 2 classes because it can get addictive and you'll have classes piled up. So keep it relevant to what you're trying to do right now. Okay, so lastly, when we're talking about keeping education and keeping certification maintenance affordable, one thing that you want to keep in mind is the 2-for-1. And I consider the 2-for-1 is when you're taking one training, but you're able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? So you take one training and you're able to use that training to count towards your CEUs or PDUs for 2 certifications. Or, for example, if you are in college right now or you're taking college courses, you can use that college course credit hours or contact hours to count towards a certification that you're trying to maintain. And you can also use whatever training you take, preparation for that training, as a PDU or CEU for a completely different certification. So for example, if you are trying to maintain your Security Plus certification, but at the same time you're taking training for your CISP so that you can pass your CISP, you can use that training from the CISP and give that to CompTIA as proof of training hours, right? So it's 2-for-1. So those are the few but very effective ways that I have used to continue my education, to maintain my certifications, and to get new certifications, and to keep all of that affordable. If this helped you at all, please comment below. Or if you have some other suggestions, comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.